He truck full of bodies case, how police pieced it together, it began quietly. The kind of silence that only families of the missing understand. In Grants, New Mexico, a small town where people still left their doors unlocked, the name Matthew Miller started circulating in whispers. A 21-year-old who'd fallen into addiction but still called his grandmother every few days, until the calls stopped. "He's been missing for over 2 weeks," she told the detective, her voice trembling. "That's not like my grandson." Detective Turney, a seasoned investigator with decades in the field, knew when something wasn't right. He'd seen too many of these disappearances begin with a worried call and end in tragedy. "I'm very concerned about Matthew's whereabouts," he said flatly, already sensing this was no ordinary missing person case. The first lead came from a woman named Leone, a friend of Matthew's, living with her fiancé Justin Mata. She insisted Matthew hadn't been around in over a year, but when police reviewed surveillance footage, there it was. Matthew's truck parked outside her home just days earlier. When confronted, Leone's story shifted. "If he was here," she said, "he must have come to see Justin." Justin, it turned out, wasn't around anymore either. Leone said he'd run off with a woman named Jennifer Lannon, a mother of 3, recently divorced and fighting her own battle with addiction. Within days, Jennifer's mother called from New Jersey, her voice breaking on the phone. "It's been 3 weeks," she said. "My daughter doesn't go that long without calling us." Now, 3 people, Matthew Miller, Justin Mata, and Jennifer Lannon, had vanished. Detectives turned to Jennifer's ex-husband, Sean Lannon, hoping he might know something. He arrived quietly at the station, polite, composed, carrying the kind of calm that detectives recognize as either grief or guilt. Sean said Jennifer had left with Justin and another man, someone he only knew by a street name, Suspect. She'd stop by occasionally, he claimed, to collect her things. He mentioned Matthew too, said he'd borrowed Matthew's truck to take his kids to McDonald's, but something in Sean's story didn't sit right. "You're the only one who connects all 3 of them," the detective pointed out later. Still, there was no evidence, no confession, just missing people and growing unease. Detectives interviewed more friends, more addicts, more witnesses living on the edge of survival. One name kept resurfacing, Danny, known on the streets as Dog, a man with a record, a reputation, and no interest in talking. His cousin trembled when officers asked about him. "I'm scared, man," he said. "I know who my cousin is. He's dangerous." The town of Grants was slipping into panic. Families were locking their doors, rumors spreading like wildfire, of debts, betrayals, revenge. Then came a tip that changed everything. A man named Josh, questioned on an unrelated matter, leaned forward and said something that made every detective in the room stop cold. "You're looking at the wrong guy," Josh said. "It ain't Danny. It's Sean. He killed all 3 of them." Detectives froze. Sean Lannon, the polite, cooperative ex-husband who had come in to help with the search, was suddenly at the center of a horrifying possibility. They needed proof. The next day, they visited Kelly, Sean's new girlfriend. She seemed nervous but honest. "He came by yesterday," she said he had to go talk to the cops about Jennifer being missing. She hesitated, then added something that made every officer in the room tense. "He broke his phone, right there in front of me, smashed it on the ground." That was enough to convince detectives they were dealing with more than a disappearance. As night fell over Albuquerque, they drafted a search warrant. Inside Sean Lannon's rented home, they found torn carpet, missing flooring, and cleaning supplies, signs of something dark and deliberate. But the man himself? He was gone. And as investigators soon learned, he wasn't done yet. 5 weeks later, in the quiet chill of an Albuquerque airport parking garage, a security guard noticed something strange. A red Ford Ranger had been parked in the same spot for days. Dust had begun to gather across the hood, and a faint odor, sharp, chemical, and wrong, drifted from the vehicle. At first, they thought it might be an abandoned car, maybe a traveler who'd missed a flight. But as officers leaned closer, their flashlights caught a dark stain on the seat, and that smell, no longer faint. "It smells off," one officer said into his radio, "like decay. Could be an animal." They popped the first plastic storage bin in the back. Inside, wrapped in tarp and cloth, was the unmistakable outline of a human form. Within minutes, the parking garage became a crime scene. By dawn, detectives were staring into the most gruesome discovery of their careers. 3 large plastic containers, stacked and sealed, held the remains of Jennifer Lannon, Justin Mata, and Matthew Miller. A 4th body, male, badly injured, was found slumped in the passenger seat. His face was unrecognizable. "Oh, there is," one investigator whispered, voice breaking. "All of them dead." The horror spread fast. By sunrise, local news vans circled the airport like vultures. The story broke across New Mexico, shaking even veteran detectives. The red truck was traced to a man named Randall Apostolon, a local drifter known for helping people move and store belongings. His family hadn't seen him in days. When police tracked down Randall's brother, the man's voice cracked with disbelief. "That's my brat." Truck? No, he doesn't hurt people. He barely takes care of himself. But the blood inside told a different story, and when investigators replayed airport surveillance footage, they froze. There, on camera, was a man calmly walking away from the red truck, descending the parking garage elevator. He carried nothing. He didn't look back. They zoomed in on the grainy image. The face was unmistakable, Sean Lannon. By the time police realized it, Sean was gone. His phone was off. His home was empty. And his 3 children were missing too. Hours later, they received confirmation. Sean and his kids had boarded a flight to New Jersey, his home state, just 12 hours before the truck was discovered. Detectives pieced together what little they knew. Sean had confessed to friends that Jennifer was missing, even showed concern. But his actions, smashing his phone, tearing up carpet, vanishing, told another story. In Gloucester County, New Jersey, local authorities joined the search. The children were found safe at their grandmother's house. But Sean? He'd slipped away again. Meanwhile, forensic teams processed the red truck. They found tools, hand saws, cleaning chemicals, a sledgehammer still crusted with blood. Every piece painted a clearer, darker picture. This wasn't a spontaneous crime. It was methodical. Detective Turney, the same man who'd started with a missing person report in Grants, stared at the evidence laid out before him. 3 bodies, 1 unidentified male, and a single thread that ran through them all, Sean Lannon. They reached out to his friend Diana in Albuquerque. She trembled when they told her the truth. "Is Jennifer okay?" she asked. "She's not," the detective said softly. "Not at all." Diana's face went pale. "Oh my God, I don't think he'd do that, but I don't know anymore." As the FBI joined the case, the scope expanded. New Mexico, New Jersey, and now federal jurisdiction. Each day brought a new layer of horror. Then, just as the investigation seemed to hit a wall, another call came in from New Jersey. A welfare check request from a woman named Carol. She was worried about her friend Michael Dabkowski, who hadn't answered his phone. Police arrived at Michael's house. The garage door was closed. Everything was locked. But when they pried it open just a few inches, the smell hit them instantly. Inside, they found Michael dead, bludgeoned, covered with a towel. The name Dabkowski sent shockwaves through the task force. He wasn't just anyone. He was Sean's former mentor, his big brother from a childhood program decades earlier. And suddenly, the picture came into focus. Sean hadn't just fled New Mexico. He had continued killing. For 6 days, Sean Lannon moved through the East Coast like a shadow. His 3 children were safe with their grandmother in New Jersey. But he wasn't done running or killing. When detectives in New Mexico learned that his mentor, Michael Dabkowski, had been found dead inside his garage, everything clicked into place. The hammer marks, the blood, the rage, all of it matched the same pattern seen in Albuquerque. To the public, it seemed unthinkable. How could a father who once seemed gentle, polite, and devoted to his kids become one of the most dangerous men in America? But to those who'd sat across from him in interrogation rooms, it was no surprise. Step 1. Detective Turney had told him weeks earlier. "Tell me where the bodies are." Now it was clear. Sean had taken that secret across the country. Investigators traced his cell phone signal across Pennsylvania and into Missouri. Each ping revealed a man on the move, traveling under his mentor's name and driving his mentor's stolen car. When U.S. Marshals finally spotted him in a St. Louis parking lot, the arrest was swift and silent. He surrendered without a fight, standing calm beneath flashing lights, as if he had been expecting it. Inside the car, officers found a hammer, a set of bloodied clothes, and a handwritten note. It read only one line: "I saw ghosts, and they wouldn't stop following me." What came next stunned even the most hardened investigators. In hours of recorded interviews, Sean began to talk, not like a criminal cornered, but like a man relieved to finally unburden himself. He confessed to killing Jennifer, Justin, Matthew, Randall, and Michael, describing each act with chilling precision and no emotion. But what shocked detectives most wasn't his confession. It was the reason he gave. He claimed that Jennifer and her boyfriend had hurt their children while he was away, that when he returned home, he found his kids unresponsive, and in his words, everything went black. He said he revived them somehow, then confronted Jennifer, accusing her of poisoning their family. He insisted he hadn't planned to kill her, that it just happened. Then came the others. Revenge, he said, for those he believed had destroyed his family's life. They had to pay, Sean said flatly. Someone had to. Detectives listened, their faces blank but their stomachs turning. He described how he'd kept the children in another room while he cleaned, dismembered, and hid the bodies in plastic storage bins. He said he'd stored them for weeks, even as the kids played nearby. I'd wait till they were asleep, he admitted. Then I'd work. The more he spoke, the more the investigators realized this wasn't a crime of passion. It was a campaign of vengeance. He told them how he loaded the containers into Randall Apostolon's truck, killed Randall when he asked questions, and later dumped everything at the Albuquerque airport, hoping it would buy him time. But then came the most chilling part of all. As he leaned back in his chair, voice steady, Sean began talking about other victims. 11 more people, he said, buried in the volcanic lava tubes near El Malpa National Monument. They're there, he said. Drop them where the rock swallows the light. Detectives froze. Could this possibly be true? No missing persons matched his claims. No evidence had ever surfaced, but he spoke about it like a man recalling a routine chore. Even his mother, when told about his statements, could barely speak. He saw things in Kosovo, she said quietly. He told me once there could be no God after what he saw. The stories blurred between fact and madness, between memory and myth. When the final confession ended, one detective asked him if he felt sorry. For destroying lives, Sean said, eyes unfocused. Especially my kids. I see them every night. The interview room went silent. Later that year, Sean pleaded guilty to the murders of 5 people, including his ex-wife and her 2 friends. He received 95 years in prison to be served across New Jersey and New Mexico. His children were adopted by their uncle, safe, far from the horror their father left behind. And as for the lava tubes in El Malpais, no bodies were ever found, only cold, endless tunnels stretching into darkness, and the echo of a confession that still haunts investigators to this day. In the courtroom of Cibola County, New Mexico, there was no shouting, no spectacle, just the quiet hum of cameras and the shuffle of papers as Sean Lannon faced the final chapter of his life as a free man. He stood expressionless, a worn orange jumpsuit hanging loosely from his frame, eyes distant, as if replaying ghosts only he could see. Across from him sat the families of his victims, people who had spent years caught between disbelief and unbearable grief. The prosecutor began with a timeline: 5 victims, 5 lives taken in under 2 months. Jennifer Lannon, a devoted mother trying to recover from addiction. Justin Mata, a man who'd once been her friend. Matthew Miller,